Seeing you kiss another man left me broken. Down in bottles, cause I'm barely even coping. Broken and battered, my mind in the gutter. Staying inside, so I closed all the shutters.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Ope Sports with Jordan Adams. This episode is all about the excitement of playoff time here in Minnesota. We each had two first-round games happen in the last 48 hours. I guess we'll start with the NBA. We'll just get right in here. We'll start with the non-Timberwolves topic today. Draymond Green stomping on Sabonis for the Golden State Warriors and Sacramento Kings matchup. You know, I was watching the video and it really looked like Sabonis grabbed his leg and I don't know, I think he got to Draymond Green, because Draymond has a history now in the NBA, so he no longer gets the benefit of the doubt. I think any conflict he gets in with someone, you gotta look at Draymond as the instigator, and I mean, I think at the beginning of the play, he definitely did, but, I mean, that stomp was excessive, but I really feel if he didn't grab his leg, the whole thing would have happened. It's just, it's certainly entertaining for playoff basketball. It seems like Draymond's always into those type of things. I think this solidifies, if it wasn't already solidified, that he is not going to be a max contract player like he believes to be in his next contract. But anyways, let's get out of there for the Timberwolves, what everyone wants to hear. Their first round game I would describe as crushed, dominated. I mean, the Wolves look silly out there. And let's remember, Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid are both out. And they're important key players to our lineup all season. I mean, I feel like defensively, you know, you get a lot out of Jaden McDaniels, and you know, I feel like Naz Reid is just a really solid player off the bench for sure. I don't know if that necessarily would have put us over the top, but I mean, the bottom line is that the team needs buckets. I mean, our two big offensive stars, Karl Anthony Towns, went 5 for 15, and Anthony Edwards went 6 for 15. The team as a whole shot at 37%. That's not going to cut it in the NBA, and it's certainly not going to cut it as the 8th seed going against a number 1 seed on the road in the playoffs. I mean, I don't know. Karl Anthony Towns has a history of not showing up to the big games. Now, I know the last few before the season to get into the play-in and stuff, he did play very well. He seems to step up, you know, in certain times. I don't know. He definitely can be a top-tier player in the NBA, but you look at that Game 1 performance, and it just kind of reiterates the whole discussion on if Towns is, you know, really a player worth building around. You know, I think he still has value in the league, but I mean, I want to say this is Ant's team, but he only shot one better, and these are like our two key players. I mean, Ant might have rushed back from his injury, though, and I definitely feel like he had a little shoulder pad on, and that's, you know, it shows some heart to me, but I mean, I just feel like this series isn't going anywhere. It's just this team clearly isn't going anywhere, and you know, at best this is probably a 5-game series. I feel like maybe we can take Game 3 at home, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a straight up sweep. Jokic, their best player, didn't even have like that. I mean, he played really well, don't get me wrong, but he didn't have a tremendous game that, like, he's the reason we dominated. It was a team effort. Jamal Murray played extremely well. Aaron Gordon played fine. Michael Porter, he's a walking bucket, it seems. It's just a scary team overall. They seem to play really fast. I don't know. It seems like we just got caught by surprise, and I don't think this was surprising to Wolves fans. At least I think as a positive, you can say Gobert got some rebounds. 13, led the team. But he also led the team in plus minus at -28. And, from a guy who was a defensive player of the year candidate, top tier all NBA defense in these past years, this year he didn't even get a single vote. It's just, the trade gets worse and worse by the day. It truly does. I don't know where we go up from here, but at least as Wolves fans, we can take comfort in this being the norm. Or maybe we should just be excited to be in the first round of the playoffs after so many years of not even getting that. It's just tough to be a Timberwolves fan. It's definitely tough. And for the NHL, before we get into the Wild, I saw a little video on the Boston Bruins Florida Panthers match, how Tyler Bertuzzi steals Nick Cousins' stick and then tries to break it on the bench, wouldn't give it back to him. I thought that was a little funny after a little scuffle. Playoff hockey is definitely interesting. There's really nothing like it. I think the same can be said about NFL playoffs as well, but the NHL playoffs is really special. The game definitely changes in a positive way, as evidenced by the Wild game. It is extremely physical, and it's very nice to be on the hitting end of things rather than getting the hits taken. The Wild versus Stars was the longest game in Wild history. I was up till 1 a.m. watching this game, and it was action-packed, exciting, fun. A little bit of anxiety, I'd feel. Couldn't look at the screen a few times. It's definitely a fun series, if this game is any indication of what's to come. Matt Dumba played absolutely fantastic, setting the tone with a big hit to Joe Pavelski. Now, to me, clean, legal hit. This is playoff hockey. This is where we separate the boys from the men. Now, the Wild in years past have gotten bullied and harassed with no answer for it. And it's cost us year after year after year. Well, this year, the team looks different. They look poised and ready for the playoffs. Foligno is out there barking, finishing hits, looking like the grindy player that we need. Reeves is out there. And that's before we go talking back about Dumba, that huge hit. It's just amazing. It was such a big hit, and I really feel like it set the tone. Pavelski got caught with his head down. I see the media saying that it's a cheap shot, fans all saying nasty things about Dumba. This is just playoff hockey. Get used to it. And really toughen up. Don't be soft. This is playoff time. Big hits are on the way. If you're not about it, then you're not going to win the cup. This is round 1, and it is a grueling process. Absolutely grueling. Now, let's also talk about Brock Faber, okay? Playing absolutely out of his mind. 3 blocks and 2 hits, including a game-saving block. This is his 3rd NHL game, okay? 3rd. He played 2 regular season games and gets thrust into the playoffs. This is 2nd overtime, and it's like he refuses to lose. He is a rookie. I mean, just plucking him right along to Spurgeon and Brodeen, it just seems like our defense, we always have extremely solid players. And I think Brock Faber is just bound to be a true stud. And I think it kind of makes Kalen Addison's departure a little easier to bear. Because, he was putting up a lot of power play assists and, just really getting a lot of points, but just with a terrible plus minus. Now, Faber is playing extremely good defense, very defensively sound, and that's just, it's almost like a complete flip, and that, that's pretty fortunate to be able to do that, just have so many defensive players that are young in the system and ready to come up. It's just absolutely fantastic. And again, the media saying that the Wild only won from cheap shots and the refs being on their side. Bottom line, the Stars couldn't score a single 5-on-5 goal. This went into second overtime. That is 5 periods of NHL hockey. There are only 2 goals around the power play, and I believe it was like 6 or 7 seconds of power play time. I mean, just immediately they fired him in. Outside of that, they couldn't do anything on 5-on-5 even hockey. So, to possibly blame the refs or, anything you call a cheap shot is laughable. Because if you really want to talk about cheap shots, we can talk about Ryan Suter. Yes, former Minnesota Wild defenseman Ryan Suter. I have his jersey. I was a big fan of him here. I really was. I liked Ryan Suter. But watching him do those dirty cross-checks to Kaprizov really grinded my gears, as Peter Griffin would say. I found it just, really despicable. Because you're doing it to our best player, our star player that gives us a best chance of winning. And to me, it shows you're scared. You're definitely frightened of us. And you feel like you can only win by taking out our best player. And the funniest thing is when Foligno comes up and shoves him, barks at Suter, he backs off. He doesn't want none of it. He doesn't want that smoke. It's really funny. He wants to go after a star player who doesn't fight, and then as soon as an enforcer comes over, he doesn't want any of it. I mean, he's all talk and no walk. And I feel like, it kind of makes you look weak. I think that's the bottom line of what it does. It hurts your reputation. I mean, if you're willing to pick on someone when they're not fighting back, and then when someone fights back, you run away scared, that's the definition of a coward, and that's what Ryan Suter is. And let's talk about Ryan Hartman for a minute. Just Ryan Hartman appreciation. That overtime goal, I guarantee I woke the neighbors. I mean, I absolutely screamed. It was so exciting. I mean, just in Minnesota sports, to get those moments, they're so special. Like, you remember them. I remember Andrew Brunette's goal against the Avalanche 20 years ago. I was, 7 years old, and I remember that. I remember that big Nino goal in the playoffs against the Colorado Avalanche. Those things stick with you. And I think that Hartman goal is definitely that type of goal. Now, sure, if we fizzle out and lose the series, maybe it won't be as remembered much. But I think winning that game on the road, it flipped the entire series. We stole a game on the road, and we set the tone for this entire series. I mean, yeah, we're the underdogs, and the Stars are going to be playing extra hard. And I think the Wild, they're going to be able to take advantage of their mistakes. It's extremely exciting what Ryan Hartman was able to do. He's just such an iconic Wild player now. I mean, that overtime goal paired with the infamous bird flip, you gotta give Ryan Hartman his props. If he's not, the most talented Wild player. He's definitely one of the guys with the most heart. I mean, remember earlier this season, he was not playing well, making a bunch of mistakes. Look at where he is now. He's won that one center position back, and he looks phenomenal. He looks like a heart and soul player. And I'm just so glad that he's on our team, really. I'm just very grateful as a Wild fan. And, I guess I should make predictions laid out on recording. I included the description in the last. Andrew and myself both picked the Wild to win and the Timberwolves to lose. And, I think those predictions are looking very likely. Like I said, the Wolves are probably going to get swept, maybe pull off one game. Whereas the Wild, I feel like a 4-2 series win is definitely a possibility. It could go all the way to 7 for sure, but that win was just special. And I don't know if it's false hope or what, but I just think as a Minnesota fan, after watching that grueling Timberwolves game, just that Minnesota Wild double OT game was just the breath of fresh air we needed as Minnesota sports fans. So thank you so much for listening about the number one game ones of the series for each of our home teams in the playoffs currently. I'm Jordan Adams signing off. Thanks for listening.
Seeing you kiss another man left me broken. Down in bottles, cause I'm barely even coping. Broken and battered, my mind in the gutter. Staying inside, so I closed all the shutters.